Let's start with something you've never admitted out loud. You've rehearsed the ring. Not consciously, but somewhere in the background of your daily performance, you've already calculated exactly how long you can let the phone ring before it becomes socially unacceptable. You've mapped the exits. You've developed what psychologists quietly refer to as a calibrated avoidance pattern, and you've become very, very good at it. Most people would call that a problem. We're not going to do that, because the people who feel a cold pressure behind their sternum when a phone rings unexpectedly, they're not broken. They are, in a very specific and measurable sense, paying attention in a way the rest of the world has stopped doing entirely. You noticed something. The others didn't. And what you noticed, what your nervous system flagged while everyone else kept scrolling, is the subject of what we're about to walk into together. But here's the first thing you should know. This isn't a video about fixing your relationship with your phone. It never was. In 1927, a Soviet psychologist named Bluma Zeigarnik discovered something that should have changed everything and quietly didn't. She found that the human brain holds incomplete tasks in a state of perpetual cognitive tension. They don't resolve, they loop, they pull. The phone call you didn't answer from 3 weeks ago? Your brain has not closed that file. It's still open, running in the background, consuming processing power you didn't consent to give it. This is not metaphor. This is the Zeigarnik effect operating inside the architecture of your daily life. And what makes it genuinely disturbing is that your brain cannot distinguish between an unfinished task and an unresolved threat. To your subcortex, they register identically. Now add the startle response. When a phone rings without warning, your amygdala does not think, "Oh, someone wants to speak with me." It executes a Pavlovian survivalism protocol that predates language itself. A sudden auditory stimulus triggers a cascade. Cortisol spikes, the parasympathetic system floods the body, and for approximately 1.3 seconds, your brain genuinely does not know whether you are in danger. 1.3 seconds, every single time. Now multiply that by the average of 96 phone interactions a day documented in the 2023 Digital Behavior Index. This is what we're calling parasympathetic overload. Not a diagnosis, not a weakness, but a logical consequence of a body that evolved over 200,000 years, being handed a device that has existed for 40. The phone is not a tool you haven't mastered. The phone is a digital parasite, an object that has learned to speak your nervous system's oldest language and uses it fluently without your permission. Stop. We need to take this somewhere you're not expecting, because everything you just heard, the cortisol, the Zeigarnik loop, the Pavlovian machinery, that's the explanation the internet gives you. That's the comfortable version. Here is the uncomfortable one. A 2022 study on auditory stimulus and self-continuity conducted across 3 European research institutions found something the lead researchers described only in cautious academic language. What they found, embedded in the data, never quite headlined, was this. The anxiety does not peak at the sound itself. It peaks in the 0.8 seconds before you decide to answer or not. That 0.8 seconds, that is not a reaction to noise. That is a reaction to choice, and more specifically, to the self that must make it. What this suggests, and what no productivity influencer will ever tell you, is that neural intrusiveness, the phenomenon of an external signal colonizing your inner state, isn't actually about the phone at all. It's about the interruption of who you were being before it rang. Think about that with complete seriousness. Before the phone rang, you existed in a version of yourself, a continuous, unwitnessed version, no performance required. And then, the ring. And now suddenly you must be someone again. You must re-enter the social contract. You must decide whether the person on the other end is worth the cost of your current self dissolving. Is it the phone you fear, or the proof that you still exist to others? We're not going to answer that. The obvious prescription at this point in the video would be to recommend silence, digital detox, notification fasting, reclaiming the uninterrupted self. You've seen that video. It has warm lighting and someone journaling near a window. Here is what that video doesn't tell you. Prolonged silence, deliberate, sustained removal from social taxation, from the friction of being perceived, does not return you to yourself. According to sensory deprivation research conducted as early as the 1950s at McGill University and replicated consistently since, the brain denied external input will generate its own signals, hallucinations, emotional dysregulation, a creeping sense that the self, unwitnessed, begins to blur at the edges. You need the noise to know you're real, and you need the silence to remember who you are before the noise. And these two needs are in direct, irresolvable conflict. This is the liminal space of modern anxiety, not a bridge between two places, but a permanent residence on the bridge. You cannot go back to the pre-digital nervous system. It no longer exists, and you cannot fully forward into the connected world without paying a social taxation your biology was never invoiced for. There is no third door. Or, and this is the part we're leaving deliberately incomplete, perhaps the third door is not about silence or noise at all, but about something in the architecture of how you were taught to receive yourself, something before the phone, something that was missing even then. There will be no three-step plan here, not because we ran out of time, but because the three-step plan is the thing that keeps you comfortable enough to stop asking the real question. The real question isn't, how do I stop being afraid of my phone? The real question is, when exactly did I start performing my existence, and for whom? Phonophobia, as the internet has named it, is not a disorder of the ears. It is a disorder of the threshold, the place where your private self meets the world's demand for your public one. And that threshold has been under negotiation your entire life. You did not develop this anxiety because technology broke you. You developed it because some part of you remembers, however faintly, a version of consciousness that did not require constant confirmation. Whether that version actually existed, or whether you're mourning a childhood that was always already fake, always already interrupted, always already observed, that is the question we are leaving exactly where it is. If this explanation felt like it hit a wall you can't see, comment "the wall" below. We'll be looking for those who understand the gap.